Hey, what's up, Ward Wrestling here? Awesome day for me. I've got Coach Chris Kelly from Cocoa Beach, Minuteman Wrestling. Cool opportunity to get to talk to him again. Always fun catching up. And so here we are. What's up, Coach Kelly?
Not too much. How you doing, man?
Good, man. It's been, man, what a crazy summer it's been, and still more to come.
Yeah, definitely excited to be on here too. So that's good.
Yeah, it's been cool. I know do you have some kids going off to Fargo?
No, so the two kids who I thought were going to go up this year, both got hurt. So Alcafredo broke his arm, and then my heavyweight, who I really wanted to get on the cadet team because I think he would have all American up there, broke his foot. So you
Oh,
know, kind of luck of the draw. Sometimes get injured, and it is what it is. So hopefully next year we'll put some guys out there.
well, you have some seventh and eighth graders that I think are going to make some noise in the years to come. And I know a couple of them, are they still up at Young Guns? I know they've been up at Young Guns training.
So I actually got back yesterday. So
Oh man, have you had a chance to talk to them and see how they loved it?
yeah, I was talking to them while they were up there a little bit. They should be at practice today, so I'll get to talk to them in person. Christian, Adrian's little brother, who was up there, actually, his mom sent me a picture of him yesterday, and he's always been the one that everyone looks at. It's like, oh, he's not jacked like the other brothers are. You've seen Billy and Adrian, and Christian came back. He's got a ripped six pack, and
Really?
he looks like a completely different animal. So that's pretty exciting.
Oh man,
He's
I know I wish I could talk Zachary into doing something like that. Just, I guess it's not his time to make that decision yet, but yeah, I think it would definitely help. And the one thing that I always thought was cool about his camp, and I wanting by the time I learned kind of about it, Daniel was already getting ready to finish up, and then I have Zachary now. But they do a lot of classwork training, from what I understand, while you're up there, and I think that's really cool because when you talk to obviously coaches like yourself or high level wrestlers, they always say the mindset thing is once they can believe in themselves, that tends to help their progress. It doesn't obviously you got to put in the work and to be great, but believing that you can be great is another thing, right?
Yeah, no, it's completely different, which is it's really cool that they do that kind of stuff and help kids learn how to process it, right? Trying to any kid can be told, "Oh, just believe in yourself," but actually figuring out a way to do it, especially in a sport like wrestling, where that little bit of doubt creeps in, and then all of a sudden you're not wrestling well at all. So
And
it's
for a long time in this sport, you're going to lose more than you win, right? And then
right,
that kind of turns around for you. Um,
yeah,
I don't know. I was, and you've been in wrestling your whole life. Obviously, if people don't know, he's got a sister wrestled high level, world, you know, Olympic trial competitor, world team competitor. I mean, she's qualified for anything that could be qualified for by a girl. Hall of Fame. He's got a dad that coached at what's the name of the college?
McMurray.
McMurray. Coached at McMurray. Also a two-time All-American at Oklahoma State. He's got a uncle, two-time NCAA champion at Iowa State. Huge club kid out of Illinois. So there's a there's a huge background there if you don't know. But we see we see these kids, and then sometimes I was listening to I forget who I was listening to, and sometimes they teach these kids just the headlock, the headlock, the headlock, and it works for them till they're about 10, right? And then and they feel like they're this greatest wrestler, and then they get to a level where technique matters, and they start to lose a lot, and it could really break them. So how important is it to start these kids with the fundamentals and the basics immediately, and not have them do whatever these trick moves or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's extremely important. Just starting with that fundamental base and becoming wrestlers at a young age, not big move guys. I honestly try not to really show headlocks or anything like that to the younger kids, right? And I wait until they get a little bit older before we really start instituting any of that stuff.
Oh,
Before, sorry, got kicked out of there before we start instituting any of that stuff in there, because if, like you said, if they have that success with that stuff early, then that's all they end up wanting to go back to. And then when it stops working, man, it can really, derail a kid. And then I feel like it's really hard to then reverse it, right? It's really hard to, turn them from a headlock guy into a wrestler. Whereas if they're already a wrestler, now you can start instituting some of the big moves when they get older, and kind of work them in. Because, headlocks and that stuff, they can work at the highest level. We had Brennan Abden out the other day talking about how his headlocks, one of his big moves.
Lost you again.
I'm on my wife's iPad, and apparently she's getting a bunch of phone calls.
You could maybe you could I think you can put it on Do Not Disturb.
Let's see.
Like your cell phone, where you swipe over.
Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can get that going.
No worries. If not, we'll just come in and out. I don't know, whatever.
Let's see if that worked. Get back in here.
There we go.
All right, let's see if that works.
Yeah, because I do that on my computer because I'm on a MacBook.
Yeah.
And I'll go up and I'll hit those two little lines, that are on the MacBook up in the corner. And I'll put it on the half moon. So people call on my phone, it doesn't ring on my computer.
Keeps popping out of here though. Can you see me on there?
No.
It's showing, but hold on. There we go. All right. Let's hope that we're good now.
No problem. Yeah. So I if anybody doesn't know, a few years ago, he transferred from Bishop Moore. He was coaching Bishop Moore for many years down over in Orlando, but was living out in Cocoa Beach, and got an opportunity to take over Cocoa Beach, and it was just too good to pass up, being right by his house. And man, you talk around the state, and a lot of people see what you've done there at Cocoa Beach, and a lot of these young kids that you were coaching over at NBWA, and they're starting to kind of get to the age where they can wrestle for you, and there's still kids behind you. Like I was at the Burroughs camp, and I saw Riker and Jet there. Man, those two kids are awesome and fun to watch, and obviously a great dad. But man, starting to see these kids that you've been working with since they were young hit that middle school level and a level where you can start to wrestle. How close is Cocoa Beach right now to really making a lot of noise?
Well, we'll see. I think we're really young right now, even with our high school kids. We don't have any seniors on the team this year. Billy was our only one last year, and he's a big loss. But we don't have any coming up this year. So everyone that's on the team right now has got at least 2 years left. And then, like you said, we got a bunch of young ones. Our youth club's got 25 or so kids in it that are all kind of starting to filter up. So, I think we could start making some noise. We'll see. I really like to see us be in the top 5 this year at least. And then hopefully the following year start, push.
I mean with Aqua Freda and the 2 days, and there's some other kids in your room that are coming up, but I really thought Aqua Freda was going to be that. I knew where Day was at. I knew Day was good enough to get to where he got to and get his medal. But I really thought Aqua Freda could shock some people in the state tournament, and then he gets that injury and kind of gets derailed. And he seems like he's doing better mentally right now, and he seems like he's starting to get more confidence in that arm. How's he coming along after the injury?
So I think he's coming along pretty good now. He wrestled for you in those duels, and he wrestled Spartan in the knockout, and I feel like he just wasn't really trusting it yet. It was still bothering him, hurting him, and he wasn't really, he's trying to hold back, which if you're holding back and wrestling at a high level, you're not going to do very well. But he just got back from, he went up to the Naval Academy and did their SEAL intensive wrestling camp with Colot. And he said it didn't really bother him up there at all. And so now, I think we're ready for him to be back to full strength and start competing, like he should, I think. So pretty
Yeah,
excited.
and I think you and I spoke before the state tournament, and I think we felt like Day would medal both days. I think we felt like both days would medal. But I think Aquafredo was that kid that you said, man, if he gets hot at the right time, he could win this thing. And then the injury. But that's okay. Hopefully he comes back and gets the job done this year and gets back to full strength. And what a great kid, great family. And there's about six more brothers you have in the room, right? So
Yeah, there's three more of them coming. Three more.
so and they all seem to fight and they all seem to love it. And obviously with dad coming around and helping you out, state trooper and a great man there. That's awesome. You got good people in the room. If you get out to Cocoa Beach, check them out. But yeah, you were mentioning before we lost you there. We were talking about the headlock. Yeah, you had Brendan Abbott in the room. What an awesome dude. I just had him on the show with SC Wrestle last week on our Dirty South podcast, and man, he looks better than he's ever looked. He looks in better shape. Um, he's so smart, but yeah, he's got that headlock hip toss kind of deal that has really, yeah, and he's probably had it since he was younger, but I think that he was learning. He wasn't only learning that, right? We obviously
Right.
he has technique and he has other things, but he's always had a love for Greco, and Greco has always taught him some cool moves like that. But what was it like having him in the room? Did the kids really? And I was talking about this when we get our high school kids like that go off to college and come back. Those are really the kids that these little kids coming up in our state were looking up to. They were watching them at the state tournament. They went and watched them at the knockout. They'd sit around the mats at any of these tournaments when these big time kids would get to wrestle. And they say, I want to grow up to be, that kid. Do the kids just love to be coached by him? How was it? I mean, was it cool having him in there?
Yeah, it was really cool having them in there. I think the kids gravitated to him quite a bit. Did you really just win U23s? And all excited about this
Yeah.
kid being there.
Did he bring his gold medal?
He didn't. He didn't. I wish he would have. But he was really upbeat. He was really positive with the kids. Talked to them, showed the things that worked for him, the things that have made his career successful. I think that the kids really liked having him in there. And I think that is one of the coolest things, right? When you have a Florida boy that comes back that has done it at the highest levels and shown the success. I think the kids get really excited about that because they see, hey, this is someone, from the state of Florida that's gone off and done all the things that I want to do, as opposed to, there's nothing wrong with
Well, I mean, how cool is it, right? We've seen the Crooks, we've seen the Mintos, we've seen the Cooper Haasses, we've seen Abdens, we've seen and Pat Lugo if I'm missing people, Julian Ramirez, DiAugustino. I mean, I could keep going, right? And they're all starting to come back to this state. And I mean, I'm throwing some names out there. They think Florida doesn't have wrestlers. These kids are freaking good, right? I mean,
well, and I think that's the thing for the youth is seeing those kids, right? Like, hey, because you hear it, all over the place. Oh, Florida, Florida doesn't have that many wrestlers. Florida's not that good, whatever it is. And, like you say, you just named off some hammer names that, everyone around the country knows those names. It's not like just kids from Florida know those names. Everybody knows who those guys are. They've watched them at NCAAs and, they're Florida boys and they're coming back. They're giving back to the state of Florida. I think Florida's really close to, starting to show people, that Florida's for real. And these youth kids that are coming up, we went to the 14U duels up there in PA. And, I think a lot of people were looking at Florida like, all right, these kids can wrestle. So
that's cool. How was that experience?
It was an awesome experience. I had a bunch of really good kids from all around the state down here, from all different clubs. And they went up there. Well, first we did a training camp down with JT Taylor at FYC. There, YIC. I
Why I
mean,
see, yeah.
yeah, and it was awesome. I mean, we were down there for 3 days and just training hard. Every kid bought in, listened to all the coaches and what we were showing, and all had positive attitudes. I mean, we were training 3 times a day, and most of them were cutting weight while doing it. Trying to get down to weight, and I don't think a single kid complained. And it was an awesome experience to see, all these kids and how well they've been coached by their club coaches. It makes me really excited for Florida wrestling because, every corner of the state was represented on that team, and, every single one of those kids has been coached really well. So it was really cool.
Yeah. And there's a lot of 14-year-olds that we have that weren't on that team. So there's a lot of good kids that are coming up, young kids. And I talked to coaches around the state, like, you obviously are blessed to where you could wrestle in middle school at your school, but a lot of these high school coaches have their club, and we don't get to see their kids until they get to high school, right? And so you talk around the state to a lot of these coaches, and I see you're at all the IOFs and the USAs and the AAUs and all the youth tournaments. So you're there, you see it with your daughter and your son. And there's so many kids that when they hit that high school level, man, I think Far's great. I was going to ask you, you have a couple girls that are in your room now. Is that something that you're hoping to kind of build on and bring more girls in, kind of build a girls aspect? Maybe Laura Mary from Hawaii. I don't know if she'd move from Hawaii to Cocoa Beach, or why she would do that other than for you and your kids. But have you felt some interest to where you might be able to build a little squad over there?
Yeah, we're trying really hard. I feel like every week it seems like, or every other week, we have a new girl pop in the youth club. We're really trying to grow that number. It's one of the things that I'm probably trying to make my biggest push for right now. Obviously keeping everything else going that we've got going. Keeping our youth club and high school and training as much as we are going. But that's the one thing that I want to build more. Obviously, my daughter is coming up soon. She's going into 6th grade this year. So 7th grade, she can start competing at high school. So that's one of the things that I'm really working on growing. I'd love to see, Cocoa Beach have a full team of girls. I think the biggest hurdle that we've had with that right now is just because we have that, we're a beach town, and I feel like a lot of the girls in the beach town are, at the beach or surfing or whatever, and you get that little bit of I don't want to do that sport. It's too tough, or it's too whatever, too manly, or whatever it is. So I'm trying to break that feeling about it, and hopefully grow those numbers, because I know if we can get the girls out in middle school, then by the time they're in high school, they're going to be hammers. So,
well, you could listen. Beach wrestling is becoming huge too. I mean, I wouldn't be. I mean, how about trying to get that sanctioned in high school? That's pretty cool, right? Having a little beach in Bud.
Any state's going to do it, we should do it here. That'd be awesome.
Well, with the beach right there, you could I'm sure you probably do some practices out there and do some stuff out there. I mean, you're like 2 miles from the sand.
I don't even know if it's that far. It's probably only like a mile. So we do. Yeah. We run out there on some of the breaks, Thanksgiving break, Christmas break, that kind of stuff. When we have a little bit more time, and there's not all kinds of traffic and stuff around. We'll get there. We'll get to the school, and we'll take a run down to the beach and bring some sandbags and do some workouts.
Definitely don't try to get to the gym at 3:00.
Yeah,
because that Minuteman Road is all the way backed up to the beach. Yeah. Give it an hour, which is why I think he starts his practices later, because it's tough to get that room. So you obviously your dad competing for Oklahoma State. You're a huge Oklahoma State fan. It's an Oklahoma State family. John Smith has been there since I was born, since you were born. So it feels like maybe not. I'm 40 something, but he's been there certainly, 30 years?
Yeah.
And What's your dad's feeling with the transition? Is he happy with the new coach? Is it cool? What's going on there? What's he think?
So I think he understood it. I don't know that at first he loved it just because he's an Oklahoma State guy. He wrestled there, and I think his first initial reaction was it needs to be an Oklahoma State guy that's the coach, right? Like it's always been. But the thing about a week went by, and then he's kind of like all in on it. Like he understands it, and he got past that initial shock of them passing up the Oklahoma State guys and realizes that they got the best guy, right? They got the guy who is going to make the biggest difference for the program, recruiting wise, coaching wise. So I think he's really excited about seeing what it is going forward.
Yeah, I mean, listen, David Taylor obviously is David Taylor, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he's obviously comes with a name, comes with a brand, and knows wrestling, knows how to wrestle. Had that great M3 club up in PA, um, and I think he's going to attract some of those kids. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see kids decommit places to be there and see a lot of PA kids who may have chose a PA school to say, hey, let's go there. I mean, let's be honest, the wrestling history and lineage at Oklahoma State is not bad.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, and I've heard good things too about the trajectory of the youth club that's there at in Stillwater, and Taylor's going to start to put his guys in there, and yeah, it makes it really exciting because I think you're even going to have some of those youth kids that were with him up in PA that are going to just outright, even as youth, move to Oklahoma to continue to be a part of what he's building. So it's gonna be
Yeah,
cool.
it's neat. It's neat, definitely neat. I was wondering. I mean, I know you were excited when it happened because
Yeah.
obviously we know what John Smith has meant to that program, right? But I mean, geez, and the coaching staff that this guy's bringing with him is just unbelievable. So exciting times, and I think people think that wrestling is better when that orange is up in the rankings again and up being one of the top teams again and compete like college football, right? I mean, when
Yep.
there's guys, at Notre Dame and Alabama and all those high level teams that when they're great, football seems to be more attractive, right?
Oh, I think when you have Iowa, Penn State, Oklahoma State, when they're all firing and they're all looking good, and you can get those big duels. I think it created a lot of excitement just this year. How Oklahoma State went on their little run of duels and jumped up in the dual rankings this year. It built a lot of excitement about them then having that duel with Iowa, and it wasn't just some dual meet. It got the hype again. And I think that's important for the sport of wrestling that we have
Yeah.
these big programs showing out the ones with the big names and competing against each other. It's just,
Well, and his ties with Penn State, I'm sure we're going to see some of those duels.
I can't wait. I hope so.
Yeah, that's going to be pretty cool. The I went out. I was in your neck of the woods. I went over to Merritt Island this past weekend and got to
Mhm.
see and meet Jordan Burroughs. And have you ever been around that guy?
No, I mean, I've been around him a little bit, but I've never had the pleasure of actually meeting him or talking with him. Been in the same room with him, but never had conversations.
Yeah,
So
it's crazy. Obviously athletes like that, you just they're legendary, right? And you think like who knows? Like I mean, growing up in Chicago, if you got to meet Walter Payton, you'd be like, oh my God, holy shit, this is Walter. But you think that these people are not human, right? They can't possibly be human. And then you get to meet these guys and they're all human, right? And it was really, really cool to see how down to earth the guy was and how
mhm.
much he loves the kids and loves the sports and loves the sport and loves the youth. And he he pulled Riker and Jet were out there just busting their
Yeah,
asses, right? And
absolutely. Yeah.
he pulled them. We were taking pictures, and he asked Jet, "Is your father here?" And he said, "Yeah." Jet's like, "Yeah, why? You want to talk to him?" He's like, "Yeah, I want to invite you guys up to Jersey to my camp, to my academy. You kids really work your butt off." And
That's
Jet's
pretty
face
awesome.
went from like being this big to like this big, right? He was like,
Yeah.
"Oh." Well, and you being involved in their wrestling too, and you know how hard they work, and it was pretty cool to have him talking to our Florida kids. But he sat there, I mean, for like an hour on two different occasions, just sitting there with all the kids around him and doing like questions and answers, and it's pretty cool. Like, I mean, you don't realize how not great he was growing up, and then just continued to work at it.
Hmm.
And it just goes to show you, like he said, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And um, what did he? I don't know. If you ever get a chance to meet him, it's pretty cool. So shout out to Graham over there at Merritt Island for bringing that guy in with the FCA program because wow, the kids were just in awe. I mean, they'd stand in line for hours to get pictures with them and get them to sign stuff. And um, but to hear a guy at that level, like I was going to say, is these kids out there. I'm sure you have kids. He said a lot of kids come into the room and they think they train, I win, I train, I win, but it doesn't work that way in this sport, right? You train, you don't. It doesn't correlate a lot, right? And then
Hmm.
he said, when I gave myself permission to be great, is when I started to see myself change, right? And pretty cool, man. And I don't know where I was leading with that, but it was just cool to meet him and talk to him, and just seeing a guy like that at that level. You being someone that grew up in Illinois, wrestling in Illinois at a high level, and that state is one of the top wrestling states in our country, right? You've been down here now for I don't know enough years to see where we're at. Um, are we way behind them? Are we coming up? Are we finding ways? Is it our greats can compete with their greats, but we haven't gotten to that generational wrestling yet? Um, how how close is Florida to becoming a wrestling state like Illinois? Maybe not exactly Illinois, but like Illinois.
So, I tell people when people ask me that question, absolutely our greats can compete with their greats. Our best kids can compete with their best kids. And that's not really the question. I think the biggest difference between us and them right now is the depth, right? And I think that comes to our youth level. Up there, kids, almost every kid is, wrestling since the time they're 5 years old. So there's so many kids at the high school level that have competed since they're five. You have these kids that never make a state tournament in Illinois, but that have beaten multiple state placers and state champs over the years, and they never even get a chance to make it to the tournament just because there's so many kids, there's so much depth up there. And I think that's where our biggest lack is between us and them. I think our youth is on the way up. You look at our youth numbers and how much they're growing, and these huge clubs that are starting to build. And you've been to the IOFs to see that some of the bigger ones have huge numbers. And I think that we're really on that cusp of making that next jump. And I think as we just continue to invest in the youth, that it's going to be, not that long before we're right on their level, competing with them.
Yeah, you see, I know you were at the national duels, and I haven't been to the national duels. I've been out to Fargo, but talking to like Jason at SC Wrestle and folks that have been out in the duels, like you'll see an Iowa, an Illinois, a Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Ohio. They can bring so many kids with them because even their second line can win the tournament, right? Their third line can win the tournament. And to have that ability is probably why we're starting to see them on top where we would, I mean, we competed well at our duels. We had a lot of great showings, boys and girls. but we
Yeah.
would have to bring our absolute elite to have a chance to win, right? Like we would have to bring our absolute elite from 1 through 14, and we're not able to get that right now, for whatever reason. Some kids were competing at the world level, at the junior world level. Some kids are just doing their thing, and some kids maybe they can't afford it, right?
Hmm.
But where you see these other teams, they can bring their second and third string because the depth in their state, and they're coming in, and it's crazy because I've talked to these Olympians, Joe Rao and Ellis Coleman, just to name two. I think they're both from Illinois. Well, one's from Illinois, I know for sure, and they may both be, but neither one of them were state champs. Neither one of them were. They were good wrestlers in high school, but they weren't. I don't think Ellis Coleman won a state title. And and
Raul did.
mean and meanwhile, they're pretty fucking good now,
Yeah.
huh? So
Yeah, definitely. And there's multiple guys out of Illinois that have done that route, never won a state title, and then we're on our world team multiple times. Joey Betterman's a good friend of mine, and he did that. He never won a state title in Illinois, and he made several world teams for us. It's just it's that it's the depth there. It's a different animal, and but I'm really excited about what I saw and what I've seen from our youth. I think I came down here, I think about 16 years ago, and the youth clubs weren't what they are now, right? So there was a few. The big name programs had their youth clubs, but there wasn't. I don't feel like there was as many clubs out there as there are now, which is where we need to be, right? That's what's going to make the difference in Florida wrestling is the people investing in the youth, getting them started early, and
yeah,
then filter
definitely,
up.
like you said, I mean, we go out. I mean, look at you see a lot of our Florida kids winning and medaling at Tulsa, winning and medaling at junior nationals, and winning and medaling at a lot of these big youth national tournaments. And yeah, definitely. And then on the girls' side, I mean, holy moly, what our girls are doing. How about them in Greco this year? That was pretty cool watching them in Greco. And I don't know. I tell people if we could bring as many girls as California could bring to Fargo, I think we would. I think we would definitely have a shot. I mean, we put 5 girls in the finals last year. Um,
I think our girls are honestly like they're one of those states that I think it should be talked about as one of the best girl states in the country all the time. Like our girls are up there with all those big name states, which is really exciting to see too. And that shows you the level of coaching that we have here in Florida and the level of athletes we have here in Florida because, on the girls scene, everybody roughly started around the same place, right? Girls wrestling as far as girls against, girls at the high school level and stuff is fairly new. And everyone's growing, at the same time. And you can see how Florida has kept up with everybody. I think that, with the boys, it's just, we started at a disadvantage because our youth scene wasn't as big as, the northern states. And that's why we're a little bit behind them right now. But the girls who started at the same time these other girls did, they're just as good as every other.
oh yes, and by the way, I know they wrestle for Pennsylvania, but Alyssa Favara, Jacqueline Busakis, Val Solario, Claire Bowie, I can keep going. They're Florida girls. You
Exactly.
can borrow in Pennsylvania, but they're Florida girls, right? I mean, and how good are they?
Exactly. No, I definitely think that it shows a lot about the state of Florida when you just look at the girls wrestling side of things and how competitive they are, how good they are. It shows you that we're doing the right things in Florida. And I think our boys are absolutely going to catch up depth wise as our youth continues to grow. And once this new crop of youth kids hits high school level, I think everybody's going to start to realize how good Florida really is. And hopefully our youth scene just continues to grow.
Yeah, it's awesome. We see a lot of kids now going off. I was talking to Coach Duck, and he's really starting to encourage his club kids and obviously he's a little farther along in his club than you are. As far as, obviously there's a lot of kids there, but you're coming up and I mean, you've got 20, 30 kids in your room every day. I see it. And he's starting to encourage them to go out for these world teams, right? Junior world teams, U14s, U16s, U17s. I think they call U17s, 20s, 23s. And I'm sorry, my son is showing me ground beef or something, so I can't.
You all right?
I was trying to think, but I can't think with him doing that. Are you going to start to encourage your kids to go compete at those tournaments? Even if, I know some will compete USA, but he was down in, where were they just now? In El Salvador. And there was like 4 of his kids on 4 different country teams. What do you think about that? I mean, that's obviously great. Will you start to try to encourage your kids to compete at that level too?
Yeah, definitely. I think, with that, he's in a more diverse area, so his kids can compete for, different countries and things. I think any kid that has an opportunity, I know, Daniel's doing it. I think it's incredible. Even if, it just trying to compete to make the USA team too, just being there, trying to give it a chance to make that team. I mean, it's going to create growth, right? You're going to grow being there, being on that level. So I think it's really important that we get our kids starting to, try and get on that level. And I'm definitely going to be encouraging these kids as they start to get there, right? As long as you can go out there and it's not, we're completely wasting your parents' money because you're wrestling for a minute total in 2 matches and that's it. Once you can compete and you can hold your own, maybe not win the whole thing, but if you can compete, it's absolutely worth going out there.
But yeah, you're younger guys to see what they can do, like taking an Aquafredo, taking a day, you have another couple of young kids, and I can't remember their names right off the top of my head. Fredenberg.
He's one that I really want to get on the national level.
And there's a few of those that, you probably could have taken them out they'll probably go to Vegas with you and they'll probably be able to do some things like that. So that'll be awesome.
Yeah, we're definitely going to start planning some more out of state trips in the off season and even in season. Just got approval from my principal this last year to do a trial out of state tournament where we just went up to Georgia. We wrestled in season in Georgia. And it went well, no incidences. So as soon as, we came back, he kind of gave me the green light to, okay, now you can start exploring further trips. So, kind of had to jump through that hurdle and get our first out of state one out of the way. And now we're going to be looking to try and hit some of the bigger name out of state tournaments a little further away in season.
That's awesome.
Excited about starting to up our level of competition. So going to knockout this year and looking to go out of state as well. So
that's cool. I look forward to seeing you there, man. I appreciate you jumping on with me. I know we could talk forever. I gotta get ready for the Dirty South podcast, but man, I appreciate everything you've done for my kids and always welcoming them in your room. I know we haven't been by in a month or so, but Daniel's been home, so Zachary's been going wherever he goes, and Daniel's trying to chase high level kids so he can practice. Yeah. But man, I appreciate you coming on. I always appreciate what you've done for me and my family, and thank you for always supporting me.
Well, absolutely. I appreciate you having me on. Your boys are always welcome. You're always welcome around anywhere I am. So, I appreciate this opportunity to come on and talk with you, man.
Yeah, man, and keep an eye on his daughter. She's kicking some butt.
Thank you.